I found a photo that ended my marriage in 1 second. I never thought a single photo could shatter everything I believed about my marriage. But 2 weeks ago, I saw something in my own driveway that changed my life forever. My name's Alex, I'm 34. My wife Claire and I have been married for 7 years. We've had our ups and downs, sure, but I thought we were solid. That morning started like any other. I left for work at 8 a.m., coffee in hand, kissed her goodbye, and drove off. But halfway to the office, I realized I'd forgotten an important file at home. I turned the car around. When I pulled into the street, I saw it. A sleek black car I'd never seen before, parked right in our driveway. At first, I thought maybe it was a delivery or a friend of hers. But then I saw him. A tall man in a perfectly pressed suit standing at our front door. And Claire, my wife, was there too. She was wearing the dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. And she hugged him. Not just a friendly hug. One of those slow, lingering hugs you give someone you've missed for a long time. I froze in my car. She didn't see me. But I saw her lean in, whisper something in his ear, and laugh. That laugh, the same one she used to give me when we first started dating. I didn't confront her right there. I wanted answers first, so I drove off. But from that moment, I knew something was very, very wrong. I wasn't planning to spy on my own wife. But after what I saw that afternoon, the black car in front of our house, the man stepping out like he belonged there, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was horribly wrong. The next evening, I told Claire I'd be home late. I pretended I had an after-hours meeting with a client, even tossed in a fake phone call just to make it believable. I kissed her goodbye, smiling like everything was fine, but the second I closed the door, my hands were already shaking. I didn't drive far. I parked 3 streets away, engine off, lights out. The winter air was freezing, and the condensation on the windshield was thick enough that I had to wipe it every few minutes just to see. For almost an hour, nothing happened. I started to feel stupid. What was I even doing? Sitting in my car, spying on my wife like some obsessed stalker? And then, headlights. A sleek black sedan rolled slowly down our street. It stopped right in front of our house. I leaned forward, heart pounding. The driver's door opened. He was tall, well-dressed, maybe early 40s. The kind of guy you see in expensive watch ads. And Claire, my Claire, practically ran out the door to meet him. They hugged. Not the quick, polite hug you'd give a friend or a relative. This was longer, warmer. Her head rested against his shoulder for just a moment too long. When they finally pulled apart, she smiled in a way I hadn't seen in months, like she was genuinely happy. They went inside. No hesitation. No looking around to see if anyone was watching. Like they'd done this 100 times before. I sat there for an hour, my fingers numb from gripping the steering wheel. The house stayed dark except for the faint glow of the living room lamp. I imagined them sitting there, talking, laughing, maybe more. When the man finally left, he didn't rush. He strolled to his car, checked his phone, and drove away like he had nothing to hide. I waited another 10 minutes before walking in. Claire was in the kitchen, humming softly, like she'd just finished baking cookies. "Hey, you're home early," she said, without missing a beat. I wanted to ask. I wanted to scream, "Who was that man?" But instead, I kissed her on the cheek, and that's when I smelled it. The faint, musky cologne that clung to her sweater. It wasn't mine, and I knew exactly where I'd smelled it before. After the night with the black car, I told myself maybe it was nothing. Maybe he was an old friend, a colleague. Maybe I was just being paranoid. But paranoia doesn't make you change the way you live. Paranoia doesn't make you suddenly keep things locked away from the person you share a bed with. It happened on a Sunday morning. Claire was in the shower, steam curling out from the bathroom door. I was looking for an old phone charger. We keep all the random electronics in the desk drawer in the study. Except, the drawer wouldn't open. At first I thought it was jammed. But no, when I tugged harder, I heard the soft click of a lock. A lock I didn't even know the drawer had. My pulse quickened. We'd lived in this house for 6 years, and that drawer had never been locked. I crouched down, peering into the gap. Inside, I could barely make out the edge of a manila envelope, some papers, and what looked like a small black box. The shower was still running. I had maybe 2 minutes. I tried the other drawers. Open, normal. Only this one was sealed shut like it was guarding state secrets. I could hear my own breathing. Every part of me screamed to just wait, ask her about it later. But I knew, if I asked, she'd just have an answer ready. When she came out of the bathroom, her hair wrapped in a towel, she caught me standing there. "What are you doing?" she asked too casually. "Looking for a charger," I said. Her eyes flicked to the drawer for half a second too long, before she smiled. "Oh, I moved that stuff. Drawer's a mess. I didn't want you going through it." She breezed past me like it was nothing, but that tiny, instinctive flick of her eyes. It burned into my mind. That night, when she went to bed early, I stayed up. I Googled ways to open a locked desk drawer without a key. Paper clips, hairpins, even credit cards. For 3 nights in a row I tried. And on the 3rd night, I heard the faintest sound upstairs. Footsteps, slow and deliberate. I froze, holding a bent paperclip in my hand like a guilty teenager. The steps stopped right above me. Then, after a moment, they continued to the bathroom. When I finally gave up and crawled into bed, Claire was pretending to be asleep. Her breathing was too even, and I knew she had been watching me. The next morning, the drawer was gone. Empty space where it had been, like it had never existed. 2 weeks after the locked drawer vanished, I was starting to lose my mind. Every little thing Claire did felt rehearsed. Her kisses were quick. Her smiles, polite, like I was a guest in my own home. One Friday night, she said she had a late meeting. It was already 8:30 p.m., but she insisted her boss needed her to go over urgent paperwork. She left in a hurry, barely touching the dinner I'd made. The moment her car pulled out of the driveway, I felt that tight, twisting pull in my chest again, the same one I'd felt the night I saw her with the man in the black car. I wasn't going to sit at home and wonder anymore. I grabbed my jacket, waited 5 minutes, and followed. I stayed far back, letting the distance between us stretch on the dark roads. She didn't head toward her office. She didn't even go downtown. Instead, she pulled into the parking lot of an old, dimly lit diner on the edge of town, the kind of place people go when they don't want to be seen. I parked across the street, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Through the diner's fogged windows, I saw her slide into a booth. And sitting across from her was the man from the black car. But this time, there was no awkward handshake. No hesitation. She reached across the table and held his hand. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the night. They talked for nearly an hour. At one point, she leaned in and rested her forehead against his. It was intimate, too intimate for any friend or colleague. When they finally left, I ducked low in my seat. They walked to his car together, and before she got in, he handed her something. It was small, square, like a photograph. I watched her slip it into her purse, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. That smile, it wasn't for me anymore. When she got home, I pretended to be asleep. I heard her moving around in the kitchen, then coming into the bedroom. Her purse was by the door. At 3 a.m., I couldn't take it anymore. I crept out of bed, grabbed her bag, and searched through it with shaking hands. The photograph was there, and it wasn't just a picture. It was them. Standing on a beach somewhere, the sun setting behind them. Her arms wrapped around his neck. His lips pressed to her forehead, and she was wearing the necklace I gave her on our wedding day. I don't remember putting the photo back. I don't remember crawling into bed. All I remember is lying there, staring at the ceiling, feeling like the ground under my life had finally given way. The next morning, Claire acted like nothing had happened. She brewed coffee, kissed me on the cheek, and hummed some tune while making breakfast. It was almost worse than the lie itself. This casual normalcy, this performance. I couldn't sit there anymore. I told her I was going for a drive, but instead I went straight to the old diner. I needed to know who he was. The waitress didn't say much at first, but when I showed her the photograph, her eyes flickered with recognition. "Yeah," she said, They've been coming in every Friday night for months. Always sit in the same booth. Months. Not weeks. Not days. Months. I drove home in a haze, my knuckles aching from gripping the steering wheel so hard. When I walked through the door, Claire was in the living room, scrolling on her phone. I sat down across from her and placed the photograph on the coffee table. Her face drained of color. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. I didn't answer. I just stared at her, letting the silence press down like a weight. "It's not what it looks like," she said, her voice trembling. But it was exactly what it looked like. And she knew I knew. She tried to explain, something about an old friend who had helped her through a hard time. But the beach, the necklace, the look in her eyes in that photo, those weren't the eyes of someone leaning on a friend. They were the eyes of someone in love. With someone who wasn't me. I didn't shout. I didn't throw anything. I just stood up, took my keys, and said, "We're done here." Her voice broke as she called after me, "Please, just listen, it's not." The door closed behind me before she could finish. Now it's been 3 days. She's been blowing up my phone with messages, long paragraphs, voice notes, even old photos of us. Part of me wants to hear her out, to understand why. But another part of me knows there's no explanation that could make me see her the same way again. I still have the photograph. Sometimes I wonder if I should burn it. Other times, I think I should keep it, as proof of the moment my marriage ended. So here I am, asking strangers on the internet, do I give her one last chance to speak? Or do I let the silence be my answer?